Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Welcome back, visionaries. It's so good to have you here with me again for another super duper no name brand podcast session. I am, of course, not alone today because I have someone on the show that I've been wanting to interview for a very long time. Not only because she's an influence in the brand strategy market, but because of her personal journey on getting there. Now, you all know I love a good survivor story that really gives you a kick up the butt, but never ever give up. Now, if you've ever heard of the saying, dynamite comes in small packages, then this is one package that's going to blow your mind. Our next guest's rags to riches has been blurbed all over the World Wide Web. A groupie, a rebel, a punk, a thirst for thinking differently and challenging the status quo. She's a no-hold-back woman who has not only come to terms with who she is, who she really, really is, but also how to flaunt the shite out of it. Definitely our kind of gal. Now, she's a mama of 3 boisterous, empathic, individual and independent boys, and an innovative and thoughtful woman business entrepreneur. She definitely is a woman who puts purpose over profession, serving thousands of students to bring their personal brand not only to life, but earn buckaroos from it. What pink is to the music world, our next guest is to the business world. And she's here with us today to share with us what it's like to be and live out a life as a visionary entrepreneur and building a brand along the way. Please help me in welcoming our next guest, the one and only Kimra Luna. Hey, Kimra.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We had a little conversation beforehand, so you're all listening. When I first heard of Kimra, she had blue hair, and I was just looking from the video, and we were talking about hair dyes. She's got pink, purple hair, and she looks gorgeous. And she was telling me she does it herself and cuts her hair. I'm like, what? You're kidding me.
Yeah, I started dyeing my hair when I was like 14. So I've gotten pretty used to it by now. So yeah.
I think I damage everything in the house, the bath, my hair. I think it's a very pretty sight, people. But I think with 44, I could probably learn something. So I would love to know, just out of curiosity for myself, is Kimra Luna your name or is it short for something?
That's my actual name. My birth name on my birth certificate. That's my name.
I absolutely love it. What does it mean?
Nothing. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
The name Kimra has no meaning. You can try to Google the meaning. There's no meaning. I mean, Luna means moon in Spanish or Latin, but that's about it.
So Kimra Luna, yes. So Luna Moon. And tell me, so for those listening, you can obviously hear that Kimra has her kids. And one thing she's notorious for is that whenever she's doing an interview, when she's doing her trainings, she was doing it while breastfeeding. Like there's no shame. This is just the way it goes. Like that's the way it is when you're a mama. And she's got 3 young boys and they are incredible. I have to take my hat off to Kimra, the way she raises her kids. So open, so receptive to each of their personalities because they're all different. You started a blog as well called Sacred Mama.
Yes, that's my new blog.
Ah, cool.
I did actually have a mommy blog before. So before my current business, I actually had a mommy blog. And that's what kind of led me into teaching branding and teaching people how to grow businesses because I did really well with that before. So I had a vegan mommy blog before I had my current business. And even before that, I had a few other different blogs and I always used the pen name, The Progressive Mama. So that was like my kind of like pen name I used to use and write all sorts of articles and things for years and years. It was never like businesses. It was just like content I wanted to write about or whatever. Then I had my blog called The Misfit Mama. And that blog got really popular. And then that's what led me into what I'm doing now. So I decided recently to start working on Sacred Mama because I really want to talk more about my healing journey, because I'm a person who was raised in a lot of trauma. I've experienced pretty much any horrible thing that can happen to a person. I've experienced it in my life.
So you were telling us about Sacred Mama. So that's what you're doing. So my thing is when you start a business, you start a business. And then when you build a brand is when you're expanding from the starting point, from the business. So where have you expanded to and where are you going now? Is it still Freedom Hackers? Are you still dealing with that? Or have you expanded where you're going, I'm moving away from this? I mean, with someone with so much trauma, you'd be like most people, but you're not most people. But most people will go like into coaching or life coaching or something to that effect. Not in a derogatory way, but
yeah, like for myself, it's like Freedom Hackers is my main primary brand. That's where I want to teach people how to grow businesses so that they can have the freedom, like in the name, like they can have that freedom and the lifestyle they really want. And Sacred Mama is more about just sharing my journey. Like I literally don't even want to make money from it. I don't really have the desire for that. It's more about there are important aspects of my journey that aren't things that are normally shared when people are just asking me business tips or they want me to speak on stages to share business strategy. There's more layers to Kimra. And so Sacred Mama is kind of like going to be an offset type of brand where my book will be underneath of that, because everyone's been begging me to write a book. I don't want to write a business book. I literally don't have any desire to have a book about business in the world. Like I just don't want to do that. So I want to write stuff that's about my journey and about my experiences, more memoirs, life, poetry, like other things like that that don't really have anything to do with my brand. But I feel like a big mistake a lot of people make is they really want to do like the passion project and then try to turn that into a business. Sometimes a passion project doesn't need to be a business. Sometimes it just needs to be the passion. It just needs to be the thing you care about. And then it could evolve naturally. Because I already know, like with Sacred Mama, I'm probably going to have companies wanting me to sell products through it. I'm probably going to have other things that'll just come up for me that I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be really great to create this type of journal, or really great to create, like eventually those things will just start flowing through me. But I always come from my business as a place of like, I'm just going to do the thing. And then as things evolve, they evolve. Other people are kind of scared to do that. They want to have like an exact business plan ahead of time. Because I do get a lot of people asking me that. They're like, well, what's the business plan for Sacred Mama? I'm like, I don't know, nor do I care. It'll come to me over time. And that's the same way my current business ran. My current business ran, I was like, I'm just going to start doing a bunch of webinars and see if people even like me or like my content and want help from me. That's all I really wanted to do. I didn't care at all if I was going to make a lot of money doing it. I was just like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And within the first few weeks, people were already wanting to hire me. So I was just like, oh, okay, I guess this is working. So I'll just keep on doing it and see what happens. And within 18 months, we had a 7-figure company. So it just exploded really rapidly. And all I was wanting to do was just to serve people. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need to be rich or something. Like I was just like, I just want to help a bunch of people. I have these skills and I want to teach people what I know.
That is so cool. Where's it going now?
So
Freedom.
Currently I had to close down a lot of my courses because of my separation. So we didn't want to risk being sued for intellectual property. So now I have a new program that's a $3,000 program, and I lead people basically to really perfect their webinar presentations and be able to make sales doing that. A lot of people, they'll attempt to do an online presentation one time and then they just don't do it ever again. And because they're like, oh, it was all right. And then they just like forget about it even exists. But really, it's the strongest thing that people can do to build momentum in their business. And that's a big mistake people make, is they don't ever build momentum. They just make a post every day on Instagram and then cross their fingers and pray that it grows. But it's like you have to be giving people something that's of live value, because people don't really buy from businesses anymore. They buy from people. It's like B2P. It's like business to people. So everyone says, are you B2B or B2C? I'm like, I'm B2P, because the P is a person. So it's like people want to buy from people, and people like myself who have a business want to work with individual people. So it's a little bit different when it comes to business now. And so we have to be creating content where we're sharing our message in front of people. And if you could get people to get onto a webinar presentation, you can share your experience. You can show your expertise. right in front of their eyes.
Mm.
And it makes them so they're like, wow, this is what I need. I would love to work with you.
Is this part of what you're doing with Nick Koyoma, with the video strategy that you're doing over there? Because
No, that's a completely different program. That video is just on creating a brand video. So that's more on just like developing the message and creating a video around that.
Okay.
And I don't even know if we're going to launch that program again or not, just because of time restraints in this next year. Because I do have a punk rock podcast coming out. I do have like other side projects as well. So I don't know how much time I'm going to be able to have in order to do that program. We did have about 40 or 50 people, or maybe it was 60 people end up joining it.
Wow.
And so we did get a pretty good amount of people who bought that program, but it's not a major focus. If we do promote it, maybe we'll promote it once a year, but it's not something that is my major focus, because to me, it doesn't teach sales specifically. It does help with more building authority, but I really wanted to do something that's really in depth on teaching a person to actually make money. Because that's where people struggle the most, and that's where I can help people the most. So I created the Nebula Institute, which is my new program, and the name isn't really way out there publicly. There's no sales page for it or anything. It's application only. I only handpick the people that join the program. So it's not where you could just click a link and then sign up type of thing. Like, you have to go through myself, soon go through a person on my team in order to even be part of the program.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've observed a lot of creative visionaries, and they tend to be big picture thinkers, and then they chunk down. And what they tend to attract are the chunk up thinkers towards a big picture, to creating it, because they can't see the big picture. Now, when you're speaking about the webinars, which I 100% agree with, just being on video and showing that expertise, it's so difficult for some, I would say like 80%, that sporadic advertising that they're putting up, they don't know what to talk about, because they're focusing less on the passion and more on the product.
Yeah.
Should they be focusing a little bit more on the passion and less of the product in order to get the content?
Well, nowadays there has to be vulnerability and authenticity and a lot of things that people are kind of scared to post about online. And it does really hold people back if they can't get through some of those fears, if they can't work on those fears. And for myself, it's like, I'm still scared if I'm posting something vulnerable and raw and real. But the thing is I know what's going to happen on the other side of that. I know that if I post something like that, people are going to be inspired. People are going to want to connect with me. And a lot of times I'm posting stuff that has nothing to do with business at all. And then I'll start getting messages from people that are just like, oh, I just love your presence in the world. Like, I love the content you're sharing. Like, I would love to talk to you. Like, what is it that you do? So I really feel like, yes, a lot of people, they're focusing on like, let's just market the product. And like, and they just say it once in a while. But honestly, most people don't mention their product enough. I find that people actually aren't saying enough what they actually do for a living. And then they're wondering why nobody wants to work with them. I said, because nobody knows what you do. If you asked on your Facebook profile, hey, what do you think that I do for a living? And if people can't answer your question, then you haven't been telling people enough. And that's true for so many people. And people are like, well, that's my personal account. I'm like, even on a personal account, people should know what you do for a living. Like, people should know what you do. But that happens so often where people actually aren't saying what they actually do. And I don't mean they have to actually be like, here, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. But their stories need to tie into what they do for a living, for what they actually care about and who they want to serve. Like, why would you not be writing posts about who you love serving? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Of course you want to write posts about that, like, that's like, even if you weren't, most people don't even necessarily try to get clients through social media. Sometimes they're getting in-person clients, or they only work with corporate or things like that. And that's totally cool. But I don't see why you wouldn't want to share, like, you know what, something I really love doing, I love serving XYZ type of people. I love seeing the transformation that they have. Like, to me, that just makes sense. That's like logical type of content to post. But a lot of people are kind of scared to post it. They're still in hiding. They're really just like their foot is in the pool, but that's it. Like, they didn't jump all the way in. They're not going off the diving board. Like, they're just, I'll just put my toe in a little bit. Maybe I'll get a few clients here and there, and they just stay, really timid and shy, and then they don't go full in. And I think everybody thinks like, oh, well, that's only for like the extroverts or something. And the thing is I'm not super extroverted. I'm used to talking to people now, but I would actually rather just kind of just stay in like one little spot and like not move. And when there's big crowds of people, I'm just like, there's too many people. Like, there's too many people here. Like I'm like, somebody like hide me somewhere. I'm like hiding in the corner at the bar. Like, too many people. You know, I feel like everybody thinks like, oh, well, Kimra, you're just an extrovert, so of course you can go and do a bunch of webinars, or of course you can go and do that. And I'm just like, you do know if you do a webinar, like, you're not going to die. You know, like, it's not like you're not going to be hurt or something just from like being on the camera. Like, it'll be okay. It's just we have a very strong fear of public speaking, especially. It's a very huge fear in a lot of people. And often people have a difficult time having success in business if they don't get past that or work through it or get coached to be better at public speaking. It can be very difficult to have success because you need to know how to talk to people. You know, that's really the main thing. And if you're so scared to even open your mouth and say what you do to somebody, if you can't walk up to somebody at Starbucks and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I do and how I serve people. If you're too scared to do that, you know, and then you're expecting to be making six figures, I'm kind of like, I don't know what to tell you, you know, like you have to push yourself a little bit, and it can be very terrifying. And that's why I have a new podcast called Brave Visibility that I'm doing with my friend Yasmin Anal. She's a high performance coach, and we're doing it on mental health. And the reason why is because a lot of people will do like, you know, they'll get these mindset coaches and they're just like, oh, I have, you know, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that, yada, yada, yada. And then the thing is some of those fears are deep ingrained things that are from their childhood, you know, and it's like that needs to be worked out. You can't just read a mindset book and expect that to be overcome. You have to actually work on your mental health on a consistent basis. Like mental health, it's like working on it. It's the same as needing to work out your body. It's the same as needing to go for walks and getting fresh air and all these things. Like you have to be working your brain too. And yes, it's great to work on the mindset stuff. But a lot of times when someone is like kind of they're almost paralyzed. They like can't go out into the world and do things. It's because there's these deep seated, you know, fears. And I actually have a theory about two different things about elementary school. So I don't send my kids to school currently.
You homeschool them, yeah.
Yeah, so my kids are at home and they're educated here, self-educated, I guess, so to speak. And a part of the reason why is because I feel like in elementary school, kids get shamed a lot for speaking up. Yeah. So if you're in class and you're talking, you're punished in front of the whole entire classroom. So you're publicly humiliated. And they start doing this to kids when they're 5 and 6 years old. Yeah. You know, and by the time the kid is 8 or 9, they just don't even try to speak up. And so I was like, of course people are so scared of public speaking. And then when kids are like really young, like even like 3, 4 years old, when a kid reaches for something on a table, the parent smacks their hand away. And so a kid is going for what they want, but they're being denied constantly. Yeah. So why would somebody go for what they want? Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. My mama thinks that that's wrong, or my nanny thinks that that's wrong, or whatever, you know, and they're just getting their hands smacked away all the time. I mean, think about that. Like if you got your hand smacked away from something you wanted like 100 times, of course you're not going to go for what you want. Why would it doesn't make a court, because like, you think your hand's going to get smacked away.
How did you get through it all? How did you, because you've been through quite a lot of trauma. I mean, yes. in the home life, there were a lot of things that were ingrained as well. I mean, you've done therapy as well, or, you know, worked with coaches as well, and energy and everything possible. You've gone through things where you were hit on the hand, you were reprimanded, you were told to keep quiet, and yet, and recently I was reading on your news feed about a rather prominent online person and how you dealt with that situation, how this person was also bugging you, like, you know, in a very soft way, but really, you know, not being very nice, and how you dealt with that. But how did you go from then? Because everyone deals with it differently, and you've just like, all right, well, it's here, so let me just deal with it. And that confidence, because it seems like, you know, rags to riches, those people that really have that situation, you're the ones that believe in yourselves the most than those that are more, oh, I don't have a story, oh, I don't have this, so I can't possibly believe in myself. Yours is more like in your face.
Yeah, for myself, I mean, it's kind of a lot of things. I mean, it's a pretty deep question because I was raised in a very like abusive situation where, I mean, I have scars on my body from the abuse that I've had. My oldest brother tried to kill me when I was 17 years old, broke my jaw, like ribs. Like, I mean, like my own brother tried to murder me. I was molested by 4 different men, 4 different men that I'm aware of as a child. I was raped when I was 20. I've had basically all these just horrific things happen to me. But the key was I just made a decision. I was like, I am not going to live in misery. I'm just not. I want to be happy. I want to heal. Wow. And even when I was a teenager, I had read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I'm from Idaho, and in Idaho, everybody is Mormon. Well, not everybody, but majority of people are Mormon. And the author, Stephen Covey, he is Mormon. And so that book was like really popular right when it came out. All the pastors from churches were giving it to all the kids and stuff. And my youth pastor at church gave the book to me. And so I read the book, and it had, you know, all these things where you had to write out like your priorities, right? And I'm like, man, this is like a deep question we ask in teenagers. But like you had to write out your priorities. And I'm thinking most of the other kids were just like, oh, get into blah, blah, blah college, or like get a soccer scholarship or whatever, you know? I wrote, the first thing was, don't be anything like my family. The first thing I wrote. And the second thing was to help women and girls.
Wow.
So those are the 2. I was 15, 16.
No way.
And that was what I wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to help people. And I remember going to my school counselor because they were just like, oh, you know, helping us pick our career paths or whatever. And I said, well, you know, I really want to, you know, help women. I really want to just serve people, you know, especially because I learned at church, like, you're supposed to serve people, you know, that's what you do. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to serve people, right? And I, you know, that's what I told the counselor. And he's just like, well, you know, there's not, you know, tons of money in just helping people, you know? And so I was just, so then I told them I wanted to make documentaries because I had videography class and I wanted to make documentaries for a living. And I really wanted to just share stories and create documentaries and stuff. And he's like, well, there's never a lot of money in that either. And I was just like, well, I guess I'm just not going to make money when I grow up. Like, I don't know, like, what I'm supposed to do. And so I did, after I graduated high school, I left Idaho, where I'm from, because I wanted to basically escape my abusive family. They're just so toxic. It's like, I mean, even still, I don't even speak with my own mother. And so they're just so toxic. I was just like, get me the hell out of here. So 2 weeks after high school, I moved to Seattle, and I was just like, nope, not doing that whole Idaho thing. Like, I'm done with that.
So you were 18, 16, 17,
I was 18. I was 18, graduated high school. Wow. 2 weeks after high school, I left. And I was the first in my family to graduate high school as well. I'm also the first to go to college, even though I'm a 3-time art school dropout. So I went to art school 3 different times. I went to film school, and then I went for fashion, and then I went for interior design. So I tried 3 times, but I didn't have any money to keep going. Like, it's just too expensive. And because I don't communicate with my mother, like, I wasn't going to like ask her to like put her name on, try to put on loans or things like that. Plus my mom don't have any money anyway. So it's like, no, what am I supposed to do? You know? So it's like, so I tried to go to school, but I was never able to afford to keep up with it. So yeah, it's just like, it's not like all of a sudden I had all this success in life, or, you know, I definitely in high school was not the person people would have thought like, oh my gosh, Kimra's going to be like the most successful person in our grade. You know, like, nobody would have said that, like, at all. And in fact, I had teachers that were just like, oh, you're like a disgrace to our school. And like, I mean, I had teachers saying horrible things to me because like I had a big pink mohawk and like all this stuff. Like, it was just like, what? Like, you're a teacher. Like, why are you saying this to me? You know, like, so it's not like I had any sort of encouragement or anything. It was really just internal. It was really just me being like, no, this, like, I'm not gonna live this life. I'm not gonna be miserable my whole life. I'm just not gonna do it. And I started booking concerts for a living because I was just like, oh, well, this is fun. I'll just do this. I'm sure I'll be poor. Sure, I probably won't make tons of money doing it, but at least it's fun, right? So I started booking concerts, and then I ended up touring with a bunch of punk bands and stuff. I ended up moving to California. And that was where I met my husband, who's now going to be my former husband. But, you know, that's where I met him when I was 20. And I spent most of my 20s kind of on a healing journey while in my relationship with him. I had 3 kids, and during that process, the kids were extremely healing experiences for me, a lot of learning experiences. And I was very terrified to even have my first son because I was like, I come from such an abusive background. How am I going to be a good mother? How am I going to actually treat this kid with respect and love and compassion and all this stuff? And I was in a few different groups, and I had started my own mommy Facebook group at the time. And this was like 10 years ago when Facebook groups were brand new. And, I'd ask people about this. I was like, oh, who here was raised really bad? And you're like, how do I do good? Like, how do I do a good job at this? And so some people started sending me like books about like, oh, like there's gentle type of parenting and you don't have to like beat your kids, like, because I literally didn't know, like, how do you parent at all? So I started.
Nobody really knows.
Yeah, no one really knows. But I really, like, I had to read books. I think some people are like, oh, you just do your instincts. I'm like, my instinct is to hit. Like, it's not to be just nice and calm and relax and talk to a kid. Like, that's not my natural instinct. Yeah. I had to change that instinct. I had to shift it because I wanted to be a good mother. I wanted to not beat my children,
Well, good mother as in, we don't want to.
Yeah.
Good in how you perceive good being,
Yes.
that the mother that you would have liked for yourself.
Just peaceful, having my kids raised in a peaceful environment where there wasn't chaos, where there wasn't fighting and screaming all the time, where there wasn't people getting hit or, people physically harming each other all the time. Like, I just wanted my kids to be raised in peace. And luckily with my ex-husband, he's not aggressive in like any type of way at all. So it turned out that we agreed on that type of parenting style. And so that turned out all right. We have like a peaceful, chill parenting style. But I mean, it was scary. It was terrifying to me because I experienced so much trauma. I was like, how am I supposed to do well with this? And so I had to start journaling. I studied so much personal development. I mean, I read so many personal books. It's ridiculous. I don't even read any books really anymore. I'm just not a very big reader. I just don't have a ton of time, and I don't retain the information either. So I just don't read a ton. I would rather watch a video or listen to a podcast or something to learn. But I do feel like I had to choose my journey of healing, and I had to work through a lot of stuff. And I'm still on that journey.
As we all are, yeah.
We're all still healing no matter what. I don't think I've arrived in any sort of way, but I do feel like I am in that journey, and that's what made it. So I was able to grow successful businesses. So I was able to have confidence because honestly, I just don't care what anybody thinks. It's like, I just don't care. And when you can get to that point, it makes business way easier. Just so you guys know, like, it's way easier when you stop just caring what anybody thinks. Like, you're just like, I'm just going to go and do it. And if everybody thinks I'm a freaking weirdo, who cares?
The way you do it, Kimra, sorry.
Yeah.
When you're putting it out there and not giving a damn what everybody thinks, you do it in such a way that's empathic and emotionally intelligent that people want to still converse with you. Mm-hmm. And there's some people that do it that you just think, oh, you bloody twat. Like, could you just disappear because you're just annoying me?
Yeah.
That conversational, do you believe that it's maybe inbred, or have you learned that?
It's something I think that just happened over time. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say when I was in my early 20s that the way I would articulate the stories and the trauma and experiences, I wouldn't articulate it in the same way. I definitely would have been at a much more angrier point, and people probably would have been like, oh, Kimra, you're just annoying and you're just some like dumb victim person, and they just wouldn't even want to listen to my story. And so when you share stories, it is important to share it when there's a lesson. Share it when something is like, when there's a change that can be made or progress can happen. Or I think people, they like to share like, oh my God, my boyfriend broke up with me today. Well, and they're like freaking out on their posts. And I'm just like, can't you wait like a few weeks and just be like, oh, yo, like a little bit healed, from that, like chill out. And I think people, they kind of throw things out there too soon. Yeah. And for myself, like my post that you're talking about the guy who was harassing me, grooming me, just being disgusting to me, that post, it took me a year before I was really even brave enough to make that post, because I wanted to post a long time ago. And I actually even remember talking to my former husband about it, because we still talk, we're still friends and stuff. And I remember telling him about it, and he's just like, well, of course, obviously you have to think about what the repercussions would be about talking about a man who is so prominent, who does have over 1 million followers. Like, what is that going to do? And it turned out just at the right time, that guy's ex-girlfriend had made a post as well. And when she made a post, it made me feel like, okay, now I'm confident enough that people are actually going to believe my story. Because I have had people that have said, like, oh, like, you're just making this up or you're just trying to get attention. I'm like, attention? I already have a zillion followers. Why do I need attention for? Like, I can make it a post on I could make a post with just my kids and I get more likes on that than anything else. Like, why do I need to do that? It's because I want to protect people from a person who is being nasty. The person just being a horrible person, and that person needs help. And sometimes we do have to start calling people out in industries. We have seen this happen in several different industries. People are finally saying, hey, we're not going to tolerate this behavior anymore. And I want to be a person that stands up for that. And if like I have to lead the way, then I just will. I mean, I'm a freaking Aquarius. That's like what we're born to do. Like, Aquarius is like, we're just like, we're starting a revolution. Like, we don't care if anybody else is listening or not. We're doing it anyway. It just makes me so happy that I had people who are very, very high level people in my industry sending me text messages, emailing me, sending me messages saying, I believe you. Thank you so much for being brave and sharing. Thank you for having the courage to share. And I mean, like, the whole day that I was sharing, I was very shaky, very nervous. And this guy, he's going around telling everybody it's a bunch of lies. And he's going around saying all these horrible things about me now. And to people that even are friends with me, which is like hilarious because they're just like, yo, Kimra, like, he's saying all this stuff. And so it's one of those things where I know I had to get it out there. But the thing is that dust will settle and that'll be fine. Like, I don't feel like it's going to affect my business negatively anyway. Because, I mean, him talking trash about me just makes him look bad. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like it's going to harm me in any way. And if anything, what it's done is it's made me know who I really can't trust. Yeah. It's made me know, like, who in the industry really is an ally for women and an ally when it comes to people that have been sexually assaulted or harmed. Now I know who in my industry is an ally to that. Wow. And so those are people that I can team up with. Those are people that I can do business with and connect with. And it makes me happy. It's sorted people for me. Yeah. And I think that was something I was questioning. I was like, do people in my industry really care about me and my story? And then when I share something like that, they're like, oh my gosh. And then telling me that they believe me and that they're on my side and that they're supporting me. Like, that really made me see, like, okay, like, there are industry leaders who are just like, Kimra's stories are valid and it's time for people to start believing those things.
Yeah, well, it's quite a big thing. When I read it, I was like, what the hell? I'm not the only person that's watched your journey. Just everything, how you've grown, your personal growth. And what I love and appreciate about you is that you don't explode in the moment. You breathe, you take it in, and you understand what the consequences are if from an action, and then build the story based on that.
And I still have more stories. I have another person that I'm going to be calling out as well in the next few weeks, but was talking to a person who was friends with this person, and this guy was like, I'm all for you, Kimra, like, share what you have to share and that sort of stuff. But then he said that he's like, well, my experiences with him outweigh the bad. And he said that to me, and I'm like, this man stalked me and made me fear for my life and my safety, and you're saying that your experience with him as just some bro friend outweighs what he has done to myself, and the fact that this guy is also a predator to his ex-wife. He was violent towards his ex-wife. He's not even allowed to see his own kid because of that. All these things. I was like, you're saying that him being a nice buddy to you outweighs that. I was like, no, you need to dive deep, because I call BS on that. Yeah. You need to be diving deep, and you need to step up and be a leader and ask yourself why you would want to continue being friends, even if someone who is just accused of treating women harmfully in harmful ways.
What you wrote down as one of your priorities, the second one, to help women and girls, that is still true today. Ironic is that you have 3 boys who have a lot of feminine energy in them, but aligning that masculine and feminine energy together.
Yeah. And I think with my boys, it's really interesting because they notice things. I mean, my oldest son, we went out with, so 2 of my friends from Idaho had came out to visit. We were going all around New York. I'm taking them all around the city. And by the end, we had gone to several different parks and things like that. And at the end of the day, my oldest son, he's like, why are there no statues of women?
What?
And I was like, well, in our society, they don't celebrate women for their accomplishments. And so that's one of the reasons why there aren't women statues.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you think about that? And he's like, well, I don't think that's very fair. And I said, no, it isn't fair. And I got this all on video
Wow.
of him saying this. It was like the end of this really long day. We'd been out all over the city, and there are tons of statues all over New York City, but most of them are men. I'd say at least 99% of the statues are men. They're not women. And he's 9 years old and he's noticing this. He's just like, why is that? I'm just like, we're not celebrated in the same way. And he's just like, okay. Like, so I'm like, if a 9-year-old can see this stuff, like, why is it that grown men can't see this? You know what I mean? Like, why are we having to even say we want to be equal? Like, I don't get that. Like, it's like, duh, of course we want to be equal. You know, like, I feel like, why do we even have to make posts where we're like, hey, yeah, we want to be equal. We want equal pay. We want to be treated equally in the workplace. We want to be treated equally in business. Why should I even have to say that? Like,
yeah,
it just seems logical. If a 9-year-old gets it, like, hello. Like,
that's incredible. And that's why Aquarian Luna, mommy, is around to raise these kids so that they're going to be the next generation that are going to be influencing the next generations.
Exactly. And I think it's really a parental thing now when it comes to just raising decent human beings. I'm like, it doesn't take a ton of work to raise someone to be decent. But I think also the parent themselves has to be decent too. Like they have to be a good, kind person in order to raise a good, kind child. And so we all have to be doing our internal work and figuring out why we behave the way we do. And I'm so grateful that things like personal development things have gotten a lot bigger over the years. I'm grateful that mental health has become like, oh, yes, we should be working on our mental health. Like, it's not as stigmatized as it was before. It still is to an extent, but it's not as much as it was before. People aren't as weirded out if they're like, oh, yeah, I have a therapy session. You know, it used to be people wouldn't even say they had a therapy session. They would
like, oh my God, is something wrong with you?
I'm going to the dentist. You know, like they would say something else or something, you know. So it's starting to become that way. And that makes me really happy because I think that it's finally time. I really would love my kids to have peers who are in that same wavelength as them, where they feel like, wow, these other kids, they understand me too, and we want to make the world a better place. And it's not, doesn't mean they have to have some big, huge mission and build some gigantic business or something. No, they can have a regular job if that's what they want to do. It's more like just being a good, genuine person and really wanting to help others. Like, that's the only thing I want of my kids, is for them to want to help people. Because mama wants to help people, I really hope they want to help people, you know?
We're coming to the end of the show. I have 2 questions that I ask all my guests, which is leading into what you were talking about now, is how do you want to change or challenge the world doing what you do?
For myself, I think, I mean, I kind of already have been challenging it in a lot of ways. I've been a bit of a disruptor in my industry. Everybody I know, it was like about time, I think, was like what happened when I came in. It was like, oh, this like crazy blue-haired girl came in here. But I think like I've always just wanted to do things from a different perspective. I think that what has happened in my industry especially is everything kind of became almost like a cesspool where everything is just regurgitating the same crap over and over and over again. And it's like, I want to do things differently. I want to share the stuff that the big top people aren't going to share with you. They're just sharing like the lower tier sort of stuff or whatever they want to call it. Like, you know, where they're not really teaching the actual real ways that they're making money, the actually real ways of having success. And they don't teach those things because they're actually afraid that you're going to be the competition.
Yeah, those aren't leaders.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, you guys are a bunch of fools, like whatever. Like, I'll teach it the real way. So I already feel like I've been a bit of a disruptor in my industry. The first webinar presentation I did, there were people afterwards emailing me saying, oh, you gave away too much. That was too much value. You should have been selling that. I was just like, what? Like, no. I'm going to give as much free value as I want to a person without you judging me. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, I'll do that, and I'll still end up having a lot of success. Sure enough, I was able to do that. Just by being myself on webinars. I don't have to have a bunch of fancy smancy slides or anything like that. I just like talk to the people. And then there you go. And it worked.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
I'd love to hear your viewpoint on 3 of my values. and you fill them in what they mean to you. So creativity for you is?
Being able to design a life of your dreams.
Ooh, yes. Passion for you is?
This is a really good one. For me, passion, it's just something you have inside. It's not something that can ever be external. It's an internal thing. And it's really funny you said this word, because when I was talking to my former husband, which, we were together for 12 years, so obviously he knows me more than anybody else. And I had said to him, I said, sometimes I feel a little frustrated because I'm like this jack of all trades, like I have all these things and it's like I really just want to like master like one thing. He's like, Kimra, you have mastered one thing. You've mastered one thing that nobody else is ever able to master. And I was like, what? And he said, passion.
Wow.
He's like, you have mastered passion. He's like, I've never met a person that is more passionate than you.
Oh, wow.
That is the thing that you have mastered. So don't worry about mastering some sort of skill.
Yeah.
Just do the passion. And I'm just like, why, thank you, ex-husband. Like,
I like you. I'll keep you in my circle.
Yeah, I know. Like, and I mean, and it's kind of funny because people will say like, oh, like, why are you guys separated? But it's just like, we're just not in love with each other. Like, why would you be together? But the thing is we can still be friends and get along. And we do definitely understand each other a lot because obviously we were together for a very long time. So passion, that's one of the things I feel that once he said that, I was like, you're right. That's the thing I have mastered in life.
That's amazing.
Because I've mastered passion and I'll just go for it.
I've got it tattooed on my back.
Wow, love it.
Wisdom for you is?
Wisdom, this one's a tough question. Okay. because I feel everybody has wisdom. It's just most haven't tapped into it.
Yeah.
And it can take time and energy and belief even to tap into wisdom. But I feel like wisdom is always present with people. It's just we're not often tapping into it. And the more we tap into wisdom, the easier our life is, the easier business is, the easier everything is. Parenting, everything.
Yeah, so true. Just thinking about the wisdom, like the consequences when there's a decision to be made. What is the consequence of that going to be? And just through that decision and that choice, there's wisdom in that already.
That's true.
I love that. Kimra, finally, thank you so much for being with us here and sharing wisdom, creativity, and passion with us and your story and being so on fire and being true to your brand and being true to you. And yeah, for me, you're the pink to business. I love pink as an artist. So it's really cool to have you here. And everyone listening, you can find out more about Kimra in the show notes, her favorite book, maybe if you're lucky, her favorite quote, all her social media links, and where you can find her. And of course, if you're interested in the Nebula, it's only by application. So you'd have to get in contact with her team and find out more about that. And hopefully we'll have her in Europe and in one of the next events. That would be friggin' awesome. And we can experience Kimra live with her
that
kids.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I would love to come.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much for being with us here and honoring what you do and keeping that passion alight and flamed and sparked.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was a really great conversation today.
Cool. Thank you, Kimra. Take care, everyone. Speak to you next week. Bye-bye. Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.